Rampage is a science fiction monster film released in 2018, loosely based on the 1986 arcade video game of the same name. The movie is directed by Brad Peyton and stars Dwayne Johnson, Naomi Harris, Malin Akerman, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Dr. Davis Okoye, played by Dwayne Johnson, is a primatologist who has formed a strong bond with George, an albino gorilla at the San Diego Wildlife Sanctuary. George is incredibly intelligent and communicates with Davis through sign language. However, their lives take a dramatic turn when a mysterious genetic experiment goes awry in space. A canister containing a gene-editing substance called CRISPR crashes down to Earth, and its contents infect various creatures, including George, a gray wolf named Ralph, and an American crocodile named Lizzie. The CRISPR substance causes these animals to undergo rapid and unpredictable growth, transforming them into enormous and aggressive monsters. As George grows larger and becomes more aggressive, the U.S. government becomes aware of the situation. Dr. Kate Caldwell, played by Naomi Harris, a disgraced genetic engineer who worked on the CRISPR project, joins forces with Davis to find a way to reverse the effects on the mutated animals and stop their destructive rampage. Meanwhile, Claire Wyden, played by Malin Akerman, the CEO of Energen Corporation, and her brother Brett, played by Jake Lacey, who funded the genetic experiment, attempt to cover up their involvement. They aim to retrieve a beacon that they believe will help control the giant creatures, but in reality, it will signal the mutated animals to converge on Energen's headquarters in Chicago. As the mutated creatures continue to wreak havoc and destruction on their path to Chicago, Davis and Kate work against the clock to find a cure for George and stop the other two monsters. They team up with Harvey Russell, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, a government agent with experience in dealing with dangerous situations. The trio manages to capture George temporarily and use Kate's research to create an antidote that could potentially reverse the genetic mutation. However, before they can administer the antidote, Claire's team intercepts them and recaptures George, taking him to Chicago along with Ralph and Lizzie. In Chicago, the three mutated creatures converge, causing widespread chaos and destruction in the city. As the military's efforts to stop them fail, Davis, Kate, and Harvey arrive on the scene to confront the colossal monsters. They must find a way to administer the antidote to the animals while also preventing the Wyden siblings from executing their plans. Amidst the chaotic battle, George regains some of his senses and becomes protective of Davis and Kate. The trio faces off against the rampaging monsters and the Wyden siblings, using all their skills and resources to outsmart their enemies and save the city. In a climactic showdown, Davis manages to inject George, Ralph, and Lizzie with the antidote, causing them to revert to their original sizes and non-aggressive states. The monsters retreat, and the threat is neutralized. With the city saved and the mutated creatures return to their natural forms, Davis, Kate, and Harvey are hailed as heroes. The movie concludes with Davis and George resuming their close friendship at the Wildlife Sanctuary, with hope for a peaceful future. Rampage blends action, humor, and impressive visual effects to deliver an exciting monster adventure, showcasing the bond between humans and animals and the consequences of genetic experimentation gone wrong. The Space Station Accident. The movie begins with a space station operated by Energen Corporation conducting illegal genetic experiments using CRISPR technology. When an exposed rat escapes and wreaks havoc, the station's crew attempts to escape in an escape pod, but the experiment's lead scientist, Dr. Carrie Atkins, played by Marley Shelton, sacrifices herself to ensure the pod safely returns to Earth. The canisters carrying the CRISPR substance plummet to Earth, infecting George, Ralph, and Lizzie. George's mutation. George, the gorilla, undergoes a rapid transformation after being exposed to the CRISPR substance. He becomes more aggressive and violent, displaying incredible strength and intelligence. The introduction of Kate Caldwell. Dr. Kate Caldwell is introduced as a former Energane scientist who knows the truth about the CRISPR experiment. She joins forces with Davis to stop the monsters and expose Energane's unethical practices. The evil plan of the Wyden siblings. Claire and Brett Wyden are the sinister heads of Energane Corporation. They are responsible for funding the genetic experiment and plan to use the monsters to create a new line of powerful military weapons. They also aim to retrieve a beacon from a satellite debris in Chicago, which they believe can control the monsters. The hunt for the monsters. As the mutated George, Ralph, and Lizzie wreak havoc, Davis, Kate, and Harvey Russell, the government agent, track them down. The military also gets involved, attempting to contain the monsters. George and Davis bond. Throughout the chaos, Davis' strong bond with George remains evident. He is determined to save his friend and find a way to reverse the genetic mutation. The battle in Chicago. The final act of the movie takes place in Chicago, where George, Ralph, and Lizzie converge. The monsters' epic showdown causes massive destruction, with the city's iconic landmarks being devastated. The antidote. Kate manages to synthesize an antidote that can reverse the genetic mutation. This becomes the key to stopping the rampaging monsters. George is returned to sanity. After initially being controlled by the Wydens, George regains some of his senses, and his friendship with Davis helps him resist their commands. The final showdown. Davis, Kate, and Harvey confront the Wydens and attempt to administer the antidote to the monsters. They must also deal with the government's decision to use a powerful bomb to kill the creatures, saving George and stopping the Wydens. In a dramatic sequence, Davis manages to inject George and the other monsters with the antidote just in time, reverting them to their normal state. The bomb is deactivated, saving the creatures and the city. The Wydens' fate. In the end, the Wydens' evil plan is exposed, and they are arrested for their crimes, rebuilding and reuniting. The movie concludes with the aftermath of the destruction in Chicago. As the city begins to rebuild, Davis and George are reunited at the Wildlife Sanctuary, where George has found a new family with other gorillas. Rampage is an action-packed adventure that combines thrilling monster battles with heartwarming moments between humans and animals. The movie explores themes of the consequences of genetic manipulation, the importance of friendship and loyalty, and the power of doing the right thing, even in the face of immense danger.